Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse number 12. Let's get started. Maitreya Uvacha Ita Swamatur Nirvadhyam Ipshihitam Nishamshya Puna Apumsha Apavarga Vardhanam Dhyabhin Andhyatma Vatam Satam Gatir Babhasha Ishat Smita Shobhitananaham. So let's go to the synonyms. Maitreya Uvacha, Maitreya said, Iti, thus, Swa Matur, of his mother, Niravadhyam, uncontaminated, Ipshitam, desire, Nishamya, after hearing, Pumsham, of people, Apavarga, cessation of bodily existence, Vardhanam, increasing, Dhiya, mentally, Abhinandya, having thanked, Atmavatam, interested in self-realization, Satam, of the transcendentalists, Gatihi, the path, Babhashehi, explained, Ishat, slightly, Smita, smiling, Shobhita, beautiful, Anana, his face. Translation by His Divine Grace Ishi, Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus his face smiling. He explained the path of transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Purport. Devahuti has surrendered her confession of material entanglement and her desire to gain release. Her questions to Lord Kapila are very interesting for persons who are actually trying to get liberation from material entanglement and attain the perfectional stage of human life. Unless one is interested in understanding his spiritual life or his constitutional position, and unless he also feels inconvenience in material existence, his human form of life is spoiled. One who does not care for these transcendental necessities of life and simply engages like an animal in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating has spoiled his life. Lord Kapila was very much satisfied by his mother's questions because the answer stimulates one's desire for liberation from the conditional state of material existence. Such questions are called Apavarga Vardhanam. Those who have actual spiritual interests are called Sat or devotees. Satam Prasangat. Sat means that which eternally exists, and Asat means that which is not eternal. Unless one is situated on the spiritual platform, he is not Sat, he is Asat. The Asat stands on a platform which will not exist, but anyone who stands on the spiritual platform will exist eternally. As spirit soul, everyone exists eternally, but the Asat has accepted the material world as his shelter, and therefore he is full of anxiety. Asat Grahan, the incompatible situation of the spirit soul who has the false idea of enjoying matter, is the cause of the soul's being Asat. Actually, the spirit soul is not Asat. As soon as one is conscious of this fact and takes to Krishna consciousness, he becomes Sat. Satam Gatihi. The path of the eternal is very interesting to persons who are after liberation, and his lordship Kapila began to speak about this path. So let's get started with the prayers. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpatarubhishcha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, this particular verse has been actually spoken by Maitreya Muni and to Vidur, and what they are discussing in this particular verse is I'll read one more time. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. So over here we see that Maitreya Muni is actually thanking his mother because she's asking questions, relating to transcendental realization. And he is explaining, the path of the transcendentalists who are actually interested in being self-realized. And in the purport, of course, Srila Prabhupada explains a few different points. First, I'll just go through in detail and then we'll discuss. Is that Devahuti is actually wanting to get this transcendental knowledge from her son, Lord Kapila. And Prabhupada makes an interesting observation in the purport, because he says that there are two things which are actually needed, in order to make human life successful. One is that one has to be interested in spiritual life. And then another thing is that one has to have face some sort of inconvenience in the material existence. So unless both these things should go side by side, like not only you have to be interested in spiritual life, but you have to realize the inconvenience of material life. And then otherwise, one is just like an animal, like he says, that how an animal goes about eating, mating, and sleeping and fearing, and then the human life has gone to waste if that is what one was doing. And of course, Lord Kapila was very happy, because actually any transcendentalist is very happy when he hears someone interested in spirituality. And such questions are called Apavarga Vardhanam. That is, Apavarga Vardhanam, basically, Prabhupada actually introduces a few words, or he emphasizes a few words in this purport. One of the words is Apavarga Vardhanam. And apavarga means cessation of bodily existence, he says, and vardhana means increasing, means like we are not going towards the bodily consciousness, like that we are the body. And then he calls devotees, he calls the spiritual interest of the devotees is called sat, because it is eternal. And so unless one is really interested in spirituality, Prabhupada says that he's actually not sat, or stands on the asat platform. And then he emphasizes a lot about material world, which is filled with anxiety, and how the spirit soul is different, from that. And also, the path of the devotees is, he uses the word satam gatihi. And satam gatihi means the path of the transcendentalist. He says the devotee should follow the path of the transcendentalist, and Kapila Muni is actually following that path. So we see over here that the roles have reversed, because now Devahuti, who is the mother, has become a student. And, or even in material life, actually, we do find sometimes the roles reverse, because in the beginning, we are advising our children, do this, do that. And then when they grow up, then somehow they start advising us, right? And then by the time they're very old or whatever, our children are taking care of parents. Sometimes, of course, in Kali Yuga, but they they are taking care. And so the roles have roles reversed. And of course, we are talking about very, very elevated personalities here, not even like material platform like us. So we are talking about Kapila Dev over here and his wife and his mother. And we're seeing how the roles have really gradually reversed, because now Devahuti is asking these interesting questions to Kapila Dev. And so then this actually brings back the question is that the material life, why is it so important, and why is in this purport and in this translation so much emphasis given to the fact that the path of the devotees is sat, and otherwise, one is a sat, and why is it so important? And sometimes, we wonder, because if we all are like have put in or are putting in like 80-hour work days or 60-hour work days or whatever, but actually, and sometimes just to survive we have to do that, but one has to think that okay, how much of it is just for my maintenance? How much is for greed? And some people, out of greed, they're just going on pursuing the material life, going on like more than they need, it's just become an obsession for them. And so that is what is Prabhupada is saying, that is not good. Of course, one has to do, for the maintenance of the family, that is there. But, when it gets to the point when it gets divorced from, interest, spiritual interest, then it becomes a problem. And, bondages will be there in this world. So what is the bondage going to be? Is it going to be to material things, or is it going to be to Krishna? So if it's going to be to Krishna, then it'll help you in this lifetime as well as, going forward. But the material bondage, it just, once death comes, then, all these material relations, they no longer hold true. So and then, so we as spiritualists need to do some sort of penance and some sort of austerities. Previously, there used to be these 4 ashrams like Brahmacharya and Grahastha and Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. And 3 out of the 4, pretty much, there were like, a lot of like penances and so on. And even on the 4th, like Grahastha is regulated, right? So we have to find a way, no matter what ashram that we are in, that we have some spiritual attachment towards Lord Krishna. And Prabhupada actually emphasized this point a lot. Like once there's a story that he told in a Rotary Club, when one of the prominent businessmen was interested in hearing about a spiritual goal of life. And, he was telling about, it's a very short story. It's a story about a person who is, doing stock trading, and his broker tells him that there's one particular stock that, is very, very profitable and you should buy it. And so this person, and you'll become very, very wealthy if you buy this stock. And so this person goes and puts all his money on this stock. And his broker then calls him in the afternoon and tells him that, what, you've become a billionaire because the stock value has risen like anything. And he's so happy. Immediately he calls his family and they hold a party. And then what happens is that in the evening, the broker calls him again. Unfortunately, the value of the stock has now gone down to 0. So, and then what happens is that at home, everybody started weeping. So Prabhupada's telling this story for the fact that this is how our material life is that it will give some temporary sense of happiness, but that happiness is not permanent. And then when we leave this world and this body, then all those things, all that material happiness, it does not come with us. But whatever spiritual assets that we have gathered during this lifetime, they will go with us. So that is there. So and then when we are only concentrating only on our material life, then the ultimate purpose of life, which is to serve the Supreme, that does not get satisfied. So what it's very important to, of course, we need things for maintenance and we have to do it. That's our duty, to provide for the family. But also service to the Supreme is also very, very important. And another point is that in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, Krishna has said, that there are like different qualities, right, which a devotee has, like tolerance, satisfaction, purity, and all those. There's a whole list of qualities which which a devotee has. And Krishna gets very pleased when we actually, one becomes very dear to Krishna. When we are serving him and we have these qualities, we become very close to Krishna in that way. But actually, what happens really, the problem why it becomes so difficult is that it's not an easy thing to do, is to give up all the material attachments. It's easy to say, but if something happens to a family member, something, we become so devastated, right? Something bad. I mean, we become but that it impacts us. And why does this impact us? Because we are under the influence of Maya. So we have to realize that we have to do our duty, but at the end of the day, it's like Krishna, we have to surrender to Krishna also, and to serve him as best we can. The reason it becomes so difficult, actually, it even becomes difficult for the devas. So there's a story, about Indra, Lord Indra. He was cursed by his guru Brahaspati, and he had to take birth as a hog, and he was here enjoying his life as a hog. And Brahma came to him at one point and said, come, you have to go back to the spiritual world. And Indra refused to go. He was like, no, I'm okay, as a hog and all. Why? Because when one comes to this material world, one comes under this influence of Maya, and one gets very used to it. And this everything that is material that's surrounding us. Another story that I can think of is like when I was personally in class 2, or of course grade 2 it's called, yeah, but in India it used to be called class 2, where I did my my schooling. And there, I had weak eyesight, and I pretty much got used to it. I mean, I thought this is the way the world is. I thought I'm seeing perfectly. Actually, I was not. It was, I was, everything was pretty hazy because my far sighted, I couldn't see very well far, but I thought this is the way it's supposed to be. And, I was perfectly happy. And I started copying some of the problems from the blackboard wrong, some of the numbers. And the teacher noticed it. And I was a good student. And all of a sudden, I was getting these wrong answers. And the teacher went and told my parents that I think you should get her eyesight checked. And so I went to, I went to get my eyes checked. And then I found out that my eyesight was weak. And, my power was actually quite a bit for just starting. And when I got my glasses, everything seemed so clear. I was like, all this time I'm looking at this world like through the other, through my other sight, and I'm thinking that like I'm seeing perfectly okay, but I'm not, and now I've got like a clearer vision, right? So with these glasses, I've got a clearer vision. And even people like who wear glasses, even if their power gets changed and they get the new glasses, again they realize, oh, okay, now I can see much better, right? So that is how, we think that we are seeing in the material life, that we are seeing perfectly okay, everything is okay. But actually later on we realize that, okay, but if we trust our gurus and our shastras, then we can see, then we can be prepared to see that no, actually what I'm looking at is not okay, and that there's something beyond this material life. So we need to have the vision and the, to actually see that other side of the picture, which a lot of people in this material world do not have, unfortunately. And the problem also happens with this material world is that when you only concentrate on matter, and then what, because at least before I came to Krishna consciousness, I was to an extent concentrating only on matter. And the problem is, and of course I was religious too, but not to the extent like today. But the thing is, at that time, what happens is that you see everything separate. like you see yourself as separate from others, you see yourself separate from everything else. So that gives you a rise to somewhat of a selfishness, like it's me and mine, and you don't feel yourself that connected to other people. And that also, that's why the people of the world, there's so much of exploitation, because you don't feel the connection. But if one is on the spiritual platform, when one gets on the spiritual platform, then you see the divine behind every a whole creation. So you find yourself connected to everything, you find yourself connected. And then you see that, okay, if I hurt someone, then I'm in effect, I'm hurting me. You kind of you start seeing that everybody is from the same God or the same Krishna. And so you start thinking about things in that way. So that's why the spiritual getting into spirituality is so much important. And also, another thing is, what I was thinking is, in this material world, of course, there's a lot of suffering. And our Shastras, they say that there are three kinds of suffering, actually. One is adhyatmika, which is internal suffering, suffering that we give ourselves through our minds and, physical problems and mental problems and illness. And then the other one is adi bhautika, that is the suffering that we get from other people, from other living beings and from other plants and animals rather. And Adi Deva is like suffering that we get from nature, that is floods and so on. So this material world is like full of suffering. There's no escape from it. We might think that there is, but there is not. Um, and then I saw a video a while back about, and I think all of you all probably heard of this analogy, but maybe it's good to be reminded. The analogy of how this material world is like a jail. And actually, that video, it made me laugh, because the person who narrated it, he narrated it so nicely. I probably won't be able to narrate it that way, but basically the idea was that the material world is like a jail, right? And supposing a friend um, gets into trouble and gets into jail, and then you want to save the friend. So you're running around, from pillar to post and gathering lawyers and trying to save that person. And okay, and then you go and visit the person and you say, look, now the lawyers have come, we're going to take you out of jail, and this, that. And the person says, I don't want to get out of jail, because I'm getting my food over here, 3 times food, which I'm not even guaranteed if I go out. And another thing is, I'm also getting to watch TV from time to time. Why do I don't, I'm perfectly content. So that is how the people in the material world are, is like perfectly content with um, what's going on. They don't want to get out of this whole material entanglement and everything, as long as they're getting their 3 meals a day or so on. And the Mayavadis, or the impersonalists, they are like sitting in the boundary wall of the jail, like the Brahman effulgence. So they can actually, and outside on the other side is the city, which is like the spiritual world. So they can even fall down again on the jail. That's what the story was saying. And but of course, our attempt should be to go towards spirituality, so that we can go to the spiritual world eventually. And that is what, and our attempt should be to get out of this material, entanglement as far as possible. Um, so so that is why even a lot of, and not only like our Krishna consciousness, but if you see most of the religions of the world, they do say that this, material world is temporary, and that you should have some spiritual interest, and you should ask like these spiritual questions, which Devahuti is kind of answering, and you should have this self-reflection about, what your spiritual goal of life should be, and have an interest in spiritual topics. Um, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said a very interesting thing. He said that uh, don't listen to Gramya Katha. He said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, actually, the reference is Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela. In Antya Leela 6.236, he said that there is no need to listen to Gramya Katha. Gramya Katha means the mundane gossip, village gossip. There is no need to listen to that. Uh, because basically what happens is that that doesn't actually lead to your development of your consciousness. Is mostly there are many reasons for it, but basically we should be allowing our consciousness to grow, and that can grow through Krishna Katha hearing. Another thing is, when you gossip, like Brahma Kathas gossip and so on, when you gossip about people, in a way, the karma comes back to you in some way, and it'll come back at some point. When you criticize, then you have to be very careful, because you have to give the other person a chance to offer their side of the story. But the thing is, it kind of contaminates your consciousness. That's the way I look at it, you know. And so the ear is actually, our ears are actually meant for Krishna Katha, so that the consciousness increases. And that is what this particular purport is also saying, is that we have to take interest in Krishna Katha. So it's okay, I think, just to maybe get the basic news or whatever. But the thing is, if you're always sitting by the TV, or you're always sitting by magazines, or you're always sitting with the people who have materialistic interests, what happens is that you become interested in that topics, and your consciousness then again becomes like that. So one has to carefully guard the consciousness in the association of devotees who are supportive of you, who you feel who are supportive of you. I think that's also an important point. And also, generally all devotees are all have wonderful qualities. So learn from each other, and kind of grow in that way, and so that you can come out of this whole material entanglement. And that is what this whole thing was. Also in Srimad Bhagavatam, the very interesting purport of one of the Srimad Bhagavatam verses. It talks about the camel, how he is interested in eating thorns, and he gets used to this taste with the blood and the thorn. The blood and the thorn, they create a taste, and the camel hurts his tongue, and gets used to that taste. Similarly, in the material world, it's thorny, it's full of thorns, and we get used to that kind of thorny environment, and the thorny pleasures and the thorny sense gratification. The reason it's called thorny is because in the end it's not going to provide too much value. So that is why it's very important for us to make sure that we attach to Lord Krishna. And that is what Maitreya is saying, that in this particular case, Lord Kapila is very, very, very thankful that actually his mother has asked these wonderful questions, these wonderful transcendental questions. And he actually goes and thanks her. And then he starts explaining the path of transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Um, so Srila Prabhupada has given us so many wonderful books. Actually, I was reading Leela Amrita, one of the chapters, and it was just amazing. He's just gone through too much of pains to give us all these wonderful books. And I think we should take advantage of that. And that's how also we can, purify ourselves in the long run. And so that's all I had for now. Any questions or comments, please feel free.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much for a nice class, especially the stories.
Thanks.
I mean, I think one was touching how we see what we are seeing is thinking that it is right. I mean, your example that you talked about when you were a small child, right? So it's yeah. Thank you so much. I know it is very. I mean, whatever I see, because even if somebody tells that it is not, it is, but still, yeah, this is what I'm seeing it. So how can I say whatever I'm seeing is not right?
Yeah, it is.
Uh,
Yeah, that is.
very unable
I,
to understand
yeah,
that. So it's
yeah.
very difficult to understand if something which we cannot see.
Yes, yes, Prabhu. That's always such a challenge because we only look through our own lens, We
Yeah.
don't look through, we have to go wider, right? Yes, Prabhu. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Sachi Sudha Das. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Okay.
Mataji, thank you for the wonderful analogies that you cited. I especially like the stockbroker and the grahastha and how it how the material world is so fluctuating and investing on the spiritual consciousness is eternal. We hear this, but especially when we hear with analogies and a real time experience, it makes a big difference. And I also concur with Lakshmi Kanta Prabhu, where is about your personal learned experience of the vision and the glasses. Like these glasses, I mean, like yes, these glasses should be used to see Krishna as an instrument. In that case, the spiritual master who comes as the as a supporting instrument to see clearly the other side of the window. The spiritual side. That's another thing that also comes to my mind. Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu, for your comments. Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. I think everybody has said what I wanted to say. I always like the stories and the analogies you bring, especially, the story of the jail. How the Mayavadis have a chance to potentially jump on the other side,
Yes.
right? And then experience the full range of happiness and, everything that the free society has to offer. And yet they are there. And, I was thinking, reflecting, in even in for me, my own case, like there is this opportunity that's given,
Mhm.
but am I making use of the opportunity that's been given, through teachings of Lord Chaitanya and that's coming through Srila Prabhupada. And so it's almost feeling, it's like it's foolish.
Yes,
Here we are,
everybody. Yes, yes,
we
I know what
see,
you mean.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
I
like that.
also sometimes I'm in the same boat. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your comments.
Hare Krishna, Saragrahi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. Very nice class as usual, and the discussion was also very nice. I was remembering how I used to complain that the movie is not projected properly or something, and others could, Later only I found out my eyes it was not
Yes,
okay.
that was really a revelation, right?
Yes, it is so.
Yeah.
It's just the lens through which we are looking.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hari.
Stories are always very nice.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji, for
Thank
your
you. Thank you.
comments. Yeah. Oh, okay, then no further comments. We can stop. Uh, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thanks.